and welcome once again to STL Soccer Talk, the video edition. I'm Tom Timmermann, beat writer for St. Louis City for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, joined and happy anniversary by Beth O'Malley, my co-host, who I don't know the exact date, but around this time of year.
I was about to ask if you looked it up. I think it was around this time of year, which is also when my actual wedding anniversary is.
Okay.
But,
well,
so
consider
for a
this.
moment I was like, did I tell him that?
It's just anniversaries all around.
All around.
And if we'll now consider the beginning of August just to be annually. It's been a hectic summer for St. Louis City. And the last week may have been
one of the more hectic weeks?
Not necessarily hectic, but certainly with reverberation-wise, it made its mark.
Was it an emotional week for you, Tom?
I don't know well, I don't want to sound crass and say no, but certainly it was a week that elicited different emotions than other weeks. I'm sure for the fan base.
Yes,
because
clearly a lot of emotions.
Because the team traded Tim Parker, who's not the original St. Louis citizen, but he's one of the early ones, and who's certainly made a outsized imprint in his time here in St. Louis.
He certainly did. I mean, he scored the first goal in franchise history, and also announced that he was having a baby at the same time, which I think people really liked his style of play, kind of the idea of a St. Louis team, and he seemed to embody a certain toughness and grittiness and maybe unexpectedness. So fans certainly loved him. I know at least one local brewery really enjoyed him as well in creating a Parker Pilsner. And he seemed to respond as well. I mean, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he seemed to be having a lot of fun in St. Louis.
Certainly compared to the time in his previous stop of Houston, where things didn't go terribly well. But he came here, his career was revitalized certainly in his first season here. He almost won the MLS Defender of the Year. I mean, he was not a guy that was getting votes before. Finished second in the voting. And he became he was the face of the team. And they got him for a good reason.
Well, and he was the face of the team to the point where around the stadium there are pictures of him, I believe, celebrating a goal. Promoting the team, and
he still looks down from a billboard on Highway 40 as you drive past the city park. But they got one of the reasons they got Tim was he had played under Bradley Carnell before with the New York Red Bulls. He knew the system and he knew the league, and they were bringing in all these guys from Europe who didn't know MLS.
Right.
And so it was his job to be kind of the tour guide, as it were, but also very much the on-field leader. You go to a City SC practice, and the one thing you could always hear was Tim Parker, yelling, and not, yelling and like, get this guy, be there, and then compliments, hey, nice job there, or no, you got to do that. I mean, he was very, very vocal on field, which is what you want from the center back.
Right.
But he was the guy, and he really formed and shaped that defense as a coach on the field, especially in the first season. I mean, it was very instrumental.
Yeah.
And I think really, if you were to look at guys who how they were embracing the community, he maybe as much as anyone, because of his experience. He's got red hair. Right. He's a older guy. He knew what he was doing. So he was a big factor in that.
I think it's interesting how the team has changed even just in its second year, and part of that is this is how the MLS is. There's a lot of movement in the MLS, and it's interesting to see the fans and myself get used to that idea that Tim Parker is not going to be a St. Louisan for the rest of his career, because he was coming up on the end of his contract. He was certainly, well, I would ask for more money if I were him, and the team leadership said, let's see what we can get out of you.
Well, and I think there was a point where the team had a number they were looking at, the Parker camp had a number they were looking at, and they weren't bridging that gap. And so it's the transfer window, and so Lutz Van Steel has to look at this thing and say, well, if we can hang on to him for the rest of the year and then say goodbye at the end, or we can try to trade him. And it so happened that New England's having a bad year. They're looking to rebuild, and so they're clearing out some salary so they'll have more room to work with.
Right.
So Henry Kessler, their center back, that who had another year and an option on his contract, and said, well, okay, we can trade him. And City actually likes Henry Kessler. He actually was like on the list of guys when they were forming the team of potential center backs. So they saw that opportunity and they jumped on it.
Should we also talk about the game?
There was a game, they tied FC Juarez and then lost on penalty kicks. So Friday at 7:30 at City Park, they play the Portland Timbers in the round of 32 of the beloved Leagues Cup, everyone's favorite in-season soccer tournament. And if they win that one, then they go on would play either Club America or Atlas, one of two Mexican clubs. And that would be Monday or Tuesday next week. If they
that'd be a quick turnaround.
It is. Well, it would be Friday to Tuesday would probably be. So it's kind of the standard turnaround, but
it feels faster.
But it is a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
We'll talk about more of this on the podcast. I wave this way, like the podcast, because that's where the studio is, but you don't know that. We're going to go into the podcast studio and talk about this some more. But, so listen to the podcast, but that's what's going on. And
I'm sure that there will be more to come because the team continues playing and the transfer window is open a little bit longer.
It's open till like the 14th, but I think they're done.
You think they're done?
I think they're done.
All right.
Unless something really, I know I've said that before, but I think they're done. Anyway, for producer Ali Shallard, for Beth, for me, Tom, until next week, be seeing you.